In this episode of OG55, longtime friend of the channel, Sam Chat, is joining us today for the very first time. We're talking about that Deadpool meet and greet at DCA, out of control, crazy. We're going to play a clip from that. We're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about Disney CEO succession. We're going to talk about just the Disneyland resort in general in terms of Disneyland Forward, in terms of like the possibility of more country bears, just a ton of stuff. We're deep diving with Sam Chat today on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55, very special edition. We have a good friend of the channel. Sam is in the house today. Sam, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. You've been a longtime friend of the channel. You know, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, so it's good to see you, brother. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on SamChat21 on X, formerly known as Twitter, which personally I still call it Twitter, but
Same here. Yeah, that was one of the biggest brand blunders of all time, wasn't it? Changing it to X. I'm like, no one calls it that except, well, George, you kind of do what Sam does, right? X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. It's like I still call it Twitter, but it's like when I introduce myself to showcase my platforms, I say, I don't know, it rolls off nicely off the tongue, you know. It's like,
there you go, like mama's homemade Italian meatball, you know, right Italiano.
Absolutely.
but I will be linking Sam's Twitter handle, X handle, in the description down below. So make sure you follow him. Really passionate Disney fan and longtime friend of the channel. So make sure you show him all the love on X. George, the Italiano, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you, Mr. Sticky Sticky.
You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George.
There it is.
You can find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
And Sam, here we go. He said sticky, bro. So there we go. That's actually a great drop for not just George, but our good friend Maybe as well, right? With Julie right in the front, you know?
Right in the front, yes.
Right in the front. All right, so let's dive into our first topic at hand, which is Deadpool. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is actually pretty funny. This is from the one and only Scott Gooston. Here's a first look at story time with Deadpool, which we'll get to that in a minute, right, George?
Absolutely. This is very funny.
Yeah, we got story time with OG and Italiano with that, but we'll come to it in a second. In the Hyperion Theater Q area, first showtime is 1:40. It says, join Deadpool as he reads from his big book of super special stories. These family-friendly tales, that's interesting, will delight, charm, and inspire in the way only Deadpool can. Okay, now this is a hot topic on social media, right? And I understand. Look, here's the thing, right? Personally, I have no issue with this because he is he's not the raunchy Deadpool that you're seeing in the movie, right? You know, I made the argument too, like, and people disagree with me, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But in the late 80s, Michael Eisner, he thought Who Framed Roger Rabbit was inappropriate, right? So he didn't release it under the Walt Disney Pictures banner. He released it under Touchstone Pictures, okay? But here's the thing, right? And I get it. That's why he did it, to separate this kind of more raunchier humor with Roger Rabbit, separate it from the core Disney brand. But then Michael Eisner went ahead and he still put Roger and Jessica and all the elements of this franchise in the parks. We saw him a lot at Disney MGM. It has its own attraction in Toontown at Disneyland, right? So you have this IP that, at the time, Eisner was like, you know what? It's not appropriate. We have to put this under a different banner. But soon thereafter, he started putting this stuff in the parks, right? That's what this reminds me of. And a lot of people disagree because they're citing, well, Deadpool is way raunchier than Roger Rabbit. And I agree with you. But here's the thing. This is 2024. The threshold for raunchy is a lot higher now than 1988.
And that's why when it comes time for the rated R, I really don't think that's going to matter as far as box office wise of how it is going to determine that, okay, well, because, you know, if the young teenagers, you know, it may just be, I think we're in a time of age where younger kids can handle a lot more than what it used to be back in the earlys and the 90s.
Yeah, it's the internet age and stuff. And like I said before, too, when it comes to Roger Rabbit, it's like, you know, you're comparing a franchise from the late 80s and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. Not now, it's not. But in the late 80s, you got to understand something. Roger Rabbit was before The Simpsons were big, right? I think The Simpsons were on the Tracy Ullman show, like those little shorts. They didn't even have their own show yet. It was before Family Guy. It was before raunchier animation became mainstream. Back then, Roger Rabbit and the sexual innuendos in that movie were very risque.
Because really, at that time, cartoons were only depicted for young kids.
It was seen as more like now it's more all ages. You're right, George. It was more for kids back then. But Sam, what are your thoughts on just Deadpool, story time with Deadpool, overall thoughts on the appropriateness of even being in a Disney park? What are your thoughts, brother?
I think it's awesome that Deadpool's being incorporated into Avengers Campus. He's a longtime favorite amongst the fans, and I think it's super awesome that we have Deadpool and even Wolverine in Avengers Campus as well. I understand why fans think that Deadpool shouldn't be in there, especially because, like, in the comics and the movies, he is a very violent character. But you make a very good point about comparing it to Roger Rabbit, right? Because it was originally released under Touchstone, but then it became Michael Eisner started incorporating it under the Disney umbrella. And that was a good point. And also, when I was a kid back in 2014, I remember playing the Lego Marvel Superheroes video game, and the Lego Deadpool was in it. And that wasn't like a very violent video game. So in my opinion, if it was okay for Lego Deadpool to be in like a kid's Marvel Superheroes video game, I think it's perfectly acceptable to have a G-rated Deadpool in DCA.
Yeah, and that's the key. You're right, Sam. And that's the key, is keeping it family friendly, keeping it G-rated, right? Obviously, we don't want inappropriate jokes in the parks. I would be absolutely against that. But here's the other thing too: we have to remember, this is DCA. This is not Disneyland. This is DCA. DCA's demographic trends older. You know, they have a lot of alcohol in DCA. You know what I'm saying? I think the demographic for DCA is probably in line with like Universal. You know what I'm saying? It's older, and I feel like it can handle it, in my opinion. And look, there's parents out there, you know what I'm saying, that don't approve of this or whatever. By all means, that's how you raise your kid, what you find appropriate or not appropriate. It's totally up to you. And as a family, you make that decision. And I think we all can respect that. But just for me personally and where I stand, I think it's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. But George, story time with Deadpool, huh?
Story time with Deadpool. That's a very interesting title that they placed there.
Yeah, so this is from a show from the other day. We did a live show with the one and only Theme Park Conductor. We love Theme Park Conductor, but we were actually joking. Well, George was joking around. See, this is where we get the what's it called? The rumors that were like Bob Iger, agents for Bob Iger, right? This is where we get that from, because George says this just a few days ago, and now we get story time with Deadpool. Here we go. My opinion. What say you, George? And then I'll go down to production.
I wanted him into the story time with Belle.
That'll work out. Yeah, story time, George. Story time. You know, you make that call to Bob and get that done, bro. What's going on with that, dude?
I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot toot. And it was funny because after I made that comment, and then it was good friend also of the channel, Trey, that had posted in the comments of Storytime with Deadpool, because I had mentioned, Storytime with Belle and everything. And yet, lo and behold, here we are, Storytime with Deadpool. And we also touched upon the fact of, if you have Deadpool, you have to have Wolverine. We said, they have to have Wolverine come out somewhere, but and lo and behold, they didn't make that announcement until actually the day of. So
yeah. Now, Sam, were you surprised at the Wolverine thing, or did you kind of get the feeling that they were holding back on that?
I'm not sure. I kind of got the feeling they were holding back. Maybe they wanted to keep it a surprise until Friday. like when Deadpool was out at DCA. I'm not too sure.
I will say though, if you look at a side-by-side comparison to Islands of Adventures, Wolverine, man. Oh, is that rough compared to this outfit?
Yeah, dude. It is. I made a joke about it on Twitter, and everyone's been cool about it. You know what I'm saying? But it's true that the costume over there for Islands of Adventure was not the greatest. This is a great costume. But hey, look, you know what? They might have Islands of Adventure might have the crappier Wolverine costume, but they do have the better Spider-Man ride. So to be fair to Universal, so
yes, they do.
Right, we'll give them that. All right, now this is from Wonders of Magic, but it was shared by our good friend Drew, the Disney dude. What's going on, Drew? We love you, brother. We're gonna play this. This is actually really funny. Deadpool's already making waves. There are people who are already upset that he's in the park at all, and now he's making Splash Mountain jokes. Okay, like let's not get any more controversial, right? Come on, here we go.
My jokes are not outdated. They are hilarious and modern and unending, just like Splash Mountain.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. What were your thoughts on that, Sam?
My gosh, like you can just tell the audience found that so funny.
They loved it, and that little at the end was perfect. Absolutely perfect.
And then after he does it, he goes, too soon.
Too soon. And this is the kind of funny thing too, is they can kind of utilize Deadpool almost like how Universal uses the donkey from Shrek. You know, the donkey, when you walk by, he kind of talks trash about like Disney, or he kind of makes fun of people, or he kind of has that snarky humor. Deadpool can kind of do the same thing, or even similar to the genie in the Hyperion show for Aladdin. You know, how the genie would kind of reference modern stuff. They can kind of utilize Deadpool to do the same thing. Do you like that approach, George, or is it not really your thing?
Oh, absolutely. I love deadpan humor. I love sarcasm. I love how they can kind of keep it rated G, but get some edgier jokes and everything. And that was one of the appealing notions of the Aladdin musical at the Hyperion. Was a lot of people went in for the show to see the genie and to see like what kind of jokes he ends up cracking, because they were all different every single time. You don't go into one show with the same exact jokes. And I feel like that the genie and Aladdin to like Deadpool and everything, I like that, and it fits so well into DCA.
Yeah, DCA is the park that you put it in. And look, my opinion would change if they decided to throw this into Disneyland. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's why you have two parks, by the way, right? You have two parks, so the two parks have different personalities and different demographics. You know, DCA should be an older, kind of edgier park. You know, why would you want Disneyland 2.0? You want something different. That's why you have two parks. You know,
putting Deadpool over at Disneyland Park is just the same as if you were to put Cars Land in Magic Kingdom. It just doesn't fit.
Well, yes. I mean, yeah, obviously Cars isn't as risque or raunchy,
right.
but I get your point
fits,
though.
It just doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't fit into the overall aesthetic. Yeah,
I agree, George.
It's weird, right? What are your thoughts on that, Sam, before we move on to our next topic about the whole rumor that they might be adding Radiator Springs Racers to Magic Kingdom?
It's very interesting. To play devil's advocate, I maybe can kind of see where they were going, because from my understanding, Big Thunder Mountain and Radiator Springs were both inspired by the Bryce National Canyon Park in Utah. So like I could see that being I could see there being a good transition from Big Thunder Mountain to Radiator Springs, especially if they're both inspired by the same place. But personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Disney cloying attractions. So personally, I would prefer it. I would prefer it if they if Radiator Springs Racers and Cars Land as a whole stayed unique to DCA, and instead maybe they built something original behind Big Thunder Mountain, like an original. It could still be based off of an IP, but like something like new that we haven't seen before at any other park.
I'll actually go off on what you were saying, Sam. I think aesthetically, the Radiator Springs Racers fits well where it would be placed beyond Big Thunder. For me, it's the Cars IP that it throws me off, like off of Magic Kingdom. But you're right, the mountain itself actually would fit really well But yeah, just as I always said, I have a very big issue with a lot of duplicating Gemini attractions, so to speak. Now, if someone were to ask me that with the international parks, then I'd probably sound like a hypocrite, because there's a lot of stuff over at the international parks. It's like, oh man, I want it over here.
Yeah, but not necessarily though, George. I mean, to be fair, like, you know, more people, it's more likely that you have people that have been to Disneyland and Walt Disney World that live in the US, True. Right? Yeah. That's much more likely than someone who travels all the way to Japan to go to Tokyo Disneyland, right? That's a smaller piece of the pie, right? Or all the way to Paris or all the way to Hong Kong. So it's less familiar out here, you know? So that's why I'm a little more forgiving on that. What do you say about that, Sam, in terms of cloning and stuff?
Yeah, I agree. Like I would love to see the Winnie the Pooh ride over at Tokyo Disneyland come to California, because that ride looks very amazing. That would be amazing if it came and like replaced the one in Disneyland in Career Country.
Absolutely, and
that would be pretty cool.
Can we all just pretty much agree that anything that OLC touches is like King Midas's gold?
Pretty much,
I agree.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. I was watching a fantastic YouTuber last night. Her name is Doobie, and she's great. She travels. She kind of does like what Anthony Bourdain does, where she travels to various countries and places, and she eats the food. She kind of teaches you about the culture and stuff like that. But she had a great video where she said, if you think you're good, don't get too cocky, because there's always a Japanese person that's doing it better. That's so true.
That is true.
They are crushing it 1,000% over there in Japan, you know? Absolutely. But Sam Chat, you actually led me to the perfect segue when you mentioned the Pooh ride at Disneyland, because I kind of want to dive into this a little bit. The future of Disneyland, you know, Disneyland Forward and all this stuff. You know, they're doing a lot of work over there to convert Splash Mountain into Tiana's, you know?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. We got the Hungry Bear, which we just got word is going to be the Country Bear, the Hungry Country Bear, you know, or whatever. We're getting that.
Rest in peace, my honey spice chicken sandwich.
Yes, yes. We barely knew thee. But here's the thing, right? We have Country Bears moving into Hungry Bear, right? Then we have the Big Al already sitting there in DCA, right in front of the DVC thing, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this, Sam? Like, is this indicative of a bigger Country Bear push that we might see going forward? Is it possible Pooh gets replaced with a Country Bear show, maybe even a Country Bear dark ride? Are they going to add the Country Bears to Grizzly River Run? What is going on with the Country Bears?
I would absolutely love to see the Country Bears return to California, especially because they were there in the 70s all the way to the 2000s. So they were there for a very long time. I would love to see the Country Bears come back, and I feel like there's incentive for Disney to do so now that like Disney IP songs have been integrated into the new show.
That's a great point.
Yes.
That's a fantastic point. You're right. You're right. Mm-hmm. And people don't give, and here's the thing, people don't give Disney enough credit for that, because they could have easily have bulldozed that thing and made something different. But they compromised, right? I mean, they did. They compromised. They're like, well, we'll keep the Bears. It's a thing that's been at Disney World, I think, since day one, right, George? Since 71. Yes.
Yep.
So we don't want to get rid of it. It's an opening day ride or attraction. So the compromise is, well, we'll add IP in there. And okay, cool. You know, I know the diehards don't like that. I get it. But this is going to play to the normies, I think. The normies don't care about the IP push. And this was a good compromise to keep the Bears, but still make Burbank happy, basically, is what it was, you know? They could have just got rid of it totally. And they could have made it a Woody thing or something else. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that we're keeping it.
I completely agree, OG.
Now, Sam, let me ask you, we kind of got a little bit of like Disney likes to throw out these Easter eggs, sort of kind of like how they did with Avengers Campus, where they had that
like the hatchet in the ground.
The hatchet, yes, exactly.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. So I feel like that's what they kind of did with that Big Al statue / phone charging station over at DCA. Now, I was asking OG, do you think that could we be seeing the Country Bears come back at DCA? Do you see it coming back at Disneyland because now they're going to have a restaurant? Or could they possibly have a little bit of both? Could they maybe do a ride over at DCA and a restaurant over at Disneyland? What's your thoughts?
That's a good point. I'm not too sure actually. I think it would just be amazing to have them back, just because, like I said, they like have been at the parks for such a long time. So, but like it would be cool to have the actual show back again, and I would be all for like integrating them into the Grizzly River Run or next to Hungry Bear, or
Sorry, Sam. Really quick, before, just hold your thought really quick. I could definitely see that because I feel like just what OG had said, or actually, and you have said too, by incorporating the Disney songs, it solidified keeping the Country Bears longer. So by incorporating the Country Bears into Grizzly River Run, that's the one part of the park of DCA that has like no IP attached to it. But if they incorporate the Country Bears in there, then that keeps Grizzly Peak around a little longer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. See, the thing with Grizzly Peak, I would love it to go into there because I think DCA needs it a whole lot more than Disneyland. But I think with Grizzly Peak, I think you take that attraction, which I think right now is maybe sitting at like a D plus ticket, right? You take that, you add some animatronic Country Bears in there with some music, and you elevate that thing almost to like an e-ticket, probably an e-ticket, I think. I mean, that raft ride with the bears along the way with the music would be absolutely incredible. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Will they do it? I don't know if they'll do it because it's money spent, but I don't know. I don't know if there's enough incentive, but what do you think, Sam? You think it's a possibility they could do something like that, or probably not?
I think so. I think there is a possibility, especially because the IP is integrated. I think another cool spot they could put the Country Bears. You know how like how there's a walkway next to Big Thunder Mountain in Frontierland, then like on the other side there's like that abandoned area where like the mine train like ride used to sit. You know how there's like that abandoned kind of area there? Yeah. I feel like that would be enough space where you could build it right there.
It's a great spot.
That would be another place they could build, and then they could keep Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They could even do like, this would be kind of interesting. They could even do a maybe throw a couple bears in the Golden Horseshoe, and make it like a permanent Country Bear restaurant or something. They can maybe do that. The reason why I think the Country Bears right now are kind of interesting is because they are adding them a lot now. We got the Big Al. We do have the Country Bear restaurant, but also because they recently went in and kind of reimagined Florida's version, and whatever. I don't know if those bears are all brand new or if they're just like maybe like the parts are new or whatever. But typically when Disney goes in there and they do anything, they usually like to buy things in doubles because it's cheaper to buy it in bulk like that than it is to do one. That's why they love to clone things like Galaxy's Edge and stuff like that. So the fact that they were recently involved with the Country Bears in Florida, and we're seeing all these signals of more Country Bears, I think that's something to keep our eye out for D23. I think that might be an option. Now, Sam Chat, I want to ask you. Here's the biggie. Here's the biggie. There's rumors. We heard from our boy Mondo, right, on Twitter. He said, like, hey, you know what? He's hearing that Tomorrowland, some kind of like modest kind of renovation of Tomorrowland might be coming. That's what he was hearing. We heard it from Frederick. I think his last name is Chambers, who's also very what's the word for it? Reliable. He's connected. So these two gentlemen are saying they're hearing the same thing. What say you? We've been stood up at the altar with Tomorrowland quite a few times with D23. You think it's a possibility, or what are you feeling?
I'm not too sure because I know you've made this point before on previous videos, but like there's not a lot of huge IPs like Frozen that like Disney could use to revitalize Tomorrowland.
Right.
You know what IP I would love to see in Tomorrowland?
What's that?
I would love to see the original Tron. I'm a huge fan of that movie. I feel like that would be a cool IP for them to bring.
That would be cool.
Honestly, I feel like there's an argument too that they could make for Inside Out being integrated into Tomorrowland, especially if you want to like share like spread like a lesson when it comes to like emotions or whatnot. Excuse me, but I don't know. Like as far as like Disney actually announcing Tomorrowland related stuff at D23 Expo, I just don't know because like you said, like there have been like at D23 Expo in 2022, there were so many rumors before the expo that they were going to bring back the People Mover and like completely revitalize Tomorrowland, but they didn't end up doing it. Well, so I'm just not too sure.
Well, because I think they were all ready for it from, if I'm not mistaken, like they were ready to give their presentation on the new Tomorrowland, and like last minute they decided to pull it. So I don't know like what they had in mind. I don't know what the concept was going to be, but for whatever reason, they decided to pull it from the presentation last minute because everybody was waiting. They thought that was literally going to be the last part of the presentation, that Josh D'Amaro was going to make that announcement.
Yeah.
And
why do you think they could have pulled it?
I think probably they had the idea of like what they wanted it to be, but then when they looked at the bigger picture, they probably thought it's still not ready because again, there's really nothing that they can do with it. I really think they need to get out of that tomorrow notion. I think they need to go more discovery than anything.
Well, here's the issue with Tomorrowland from a business perspective. Before fans get mad at me, you know, I'm saying this from a business perspective, right? There's not a whole lot of incentive for Disney to go in there and start ripping things up. Because if you really look at Tomorrowland, aside from a few eyesores, which is Launch Bay, which they use as basically like a flex space at this point, right? So Launch Bay and the People Mover track. Aside from those two things, it's pretty much the attractions and what they offer are pretty successful, are pretty popular. You have Space Mountain, which is obviously one of the most popular attractions in either park, right? Even Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters always packs them in, always long lines, always busy. Star Tours, very busy, you know, I mean, very popular. Autopia, very popular. I think it's a waste of space personally, but you know, the kiddos love it and it's popular. So there's not a whole lot.
Again, OG, this is Disney. Why is it always about the kids?
I know, exactly. You're right. What was I thinking? But you know what I'm saying though? Like if you look at the attractions and the substance in there, aside from a few black eyes, for the most part, it's still bringing people in. So it would be mostly a cosmetic change. And I don't know, Disney looks at that and go, we can spend, you know, what is it, $100 million or whatever they're going to spend on Tomorrowland to make it look pretty, or we can spend some money and bring the big boys out, the big IP. We can do Frozen Land. We can do, you know, the Pandora thing. We can maybe even do Zootopia. Those are big franchises, and Tomorrowland doesn't really have any franchises, like Sam was saying, that could really play like a Frozen would, money-wise. And I'm just putting my financial cap on, you know, from a business perspective. So, but I do like your idea, Sam, which is very interesting, of Inside Out, because that kind of brings us back to like the original sort of direction with Tomorrowland, with like Adventures Through Inner Space, that kind of science direction. And I've never thought about that, and I do like that.
I like that too, and I was actually going to say, because if you really look at the scope of Tomorrowland done at Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, they have the laugh floor. Right. That's Monsters, Inc. What really does Monsters, Inc. have to do with futuristic side? But it's just because of the technology that is used for the laugh floor. We're taking, you know, the humans into the monster world for like this comedy club, and they get to interact with the monsters and they tell jokes and everything. So yeah, so I could definitely see. And then also too, Wreck-It Ralph is going to go into one of the Tomorrowlands. I forget which one it's going into. Is it Shanghai?
No, I think
Tokyo.
Tokyo, yeah.
Tokyo. It's going. So I mean, you can kind of take Disney IP that's not necessarily space or futuristic, but you can kind of tie it into whatever if the storyline fits. Well, you know, and I feel like that was the route that they were going to go with Strange World, because I think Strange World would have worked well in Tomorrowland had the film been a much bigger success.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That film, they probably were going to do something with that, you know, or even Lightyear. We heard rumors of Lightyear.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But those movies just flopped.
But we also have to keep an eye on Elio, too, because Elio is now going to be a space movie. And if that does well, you never know.
Exactly. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. So now moving over to DCA, right? Moving over to DCA. Moving over to DCA, this is I think the park that needs it. I mean, Disneyland is doing great. We just got Galaxy's Edge, you know, we just got a revamped Toontown, an e-ticket with Runaway Railway. It's gotten enough, and it's already an amazing park already. So it's doing great. It's good for I think at least a few years. DCA though has really fallen behind. I mean, it really has. We haven't gotten anything major in a long time. It needs another e-ticket or even two, you know. I mean, Radiator Springs Racers, its cervical spine is really hurting having to carry that whole park on its back. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, you know, I'm telling you. So they need something in there. Now we're probably going to get Pandora. That's what the leading rumor is. That's going to go into DCA, right? And I'm going to come back to that in a second, Sam. I want your opinion on that one. We might get some other stuff though too. I have a friend of the channel, a follower, right, George, a subscriber. That's a Rap 818. Shout out to That's a Rap 818, who left a comment on one of my recent videos. They work at a paint store. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying this because it was posted in the comments, so it's public. So I'm assuming it's okay to say. But
if not, we're screwed.
Yeah, if not, we're screwed. I'm so sorry. No, but and there was a Disney person who came in and they were looking for like paint stuff or whatever, and it was in regards to Zootopia. Judy Hopps animatronic was mentioned and all this other stuff. So that was interesting because George and I have been speculating that Zootopia might come to DCA. That's kind of a perfect kind of DCA franchise. They've kind of beta tested it with the meet and greets over there in Bathroom Row, right over there by the what's it called? The entrance to Little Mermaid, right there. They're always hanging out. Is it possible we get a Zootopia attraction or even a whole land, maybe to replace Hollywood Land? I don't know. That's a possibility. But Sam Chat, between all the possibilities here, the Avengers e-ticket as well, what do you think we are looking at for D23 to be announced for DCA?
It's very exciting, the amount of possibilities and like there are for DCA. Because I agree with the OG. DCA is kind of struggling. It's not amazing. It's a good park, but it's not amazing. It's definitely not on the same level as Disneyland. So it could definitely use a few more e-tickets for sure, especially because like Radiator Springs is like the only e-ticket in that park. So like once you have another e-ticket online DCA, then like we can close Radiator Springs for refurbishment and whatnot. Okay. But as far as Pandora and DCA, that's an interesting one because like based off of the two movies that have been released thus far, it's hard to like see a connection between the overall California theme and the overall and the theme of the Avatar movies.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure about that one, but like from my understanding, like the doctor in the first movie, I can't remember her name. I guess she went to Stanford University. Stanford University is in California, so maybe they could tie it in that way. I don't know, but nonetheless,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I believe I could be wrong. I think her name was Grace.
Oh, was it?
Grace. That's her first name. I can't remember her last name. It's been a while since I watched the first movie.
I'm surprised you remember that. You're doing better than I am with that.
I will say that she's played by Sigourney Weaver. I do know that. Yeah.
I knew that much. But like, here's the thing with Avatar. I'm with you, Sam, on this, and I think George, you're on the same page too. Where it's like I've been very loose when it comes to the California theme. It doesn't take a whole lot. For me, I don't need a whole lot. Some people are super strict about it. It's like, you know, I don't really care. Like you can use a little imagination and to kind of tie it in. San Francisco, for example, it's not a real city in California, but there's enough California inspiration there. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Buena Vista Street technically isn't really a real representation of any street. It's an amalgamation of various elements of LA at that time. But you know what? It works for me. Even Cars Land, I know technically it's in Arizona, but it looks very California with the landscapes. Mm-hmm. And even car culture, very California. Route 66, very California. So I'm not too particular with this stuff. But then when you try to sell me Avatar, though, I mean, that's where I'm like, well, what is going on here? Now, the only thing I can kind of think of maybe is that it'll be based on one of the upcoming movies, and there is more of a California connection in one of the upcoming movies that we're not aware of yet. That's a possibility. You know, you can even maybe theme it to, you can have like a California space shuttle launch facility, and you go through that, and then you that leads you into Pandora, something like that. I don't know what they'll do with it, but it is kind of a stretch. I hope the Imagineers take some care into kind of tying that in, though. I don't want them to just kind of throw it in there and just like, there it is. I want some explanation, so even if it's a loose connection to California. Just give me a little something. Now, we're also assuming they're going to keep the California theme. We might even get a whole new name at D23 for California Adventure, and then all of this doesn't even matter. So we'll see, Where do you think they're going to put it? That would be wild. Where do you think
that would be crazy if they renamed the entire park?
You think that's a possibility if they were to do that?
Well, they just do it at Paris with Walt Disney Studios Park? I can't remember the new name.
They're going to. Yeah, it's either World Adventure or Adventure World. It's one of the two.
Which sounds
and the logo, it just looks like the Disney DVD logo. Did you see that, George?
I saw that. As soon as I saw that, I thought, "Oh my gosh, man, are they going back to the early 2000s on that one?"
Right. Exactly. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. You know, we'll see how this whole thing kind of ties together. But I think for the expo, we will get more information on that. We'll probably get, I would hope, at least what park it's going into. I think we probably will get that information at D23. Probably a little bit more detail in terms of like what the land will look like, not so vague like the last one. Maybe some information on the ride too. Go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say too, from my understanding, there's going to be another D23 Expo in 2026 because
it's every 2 years.
Yes. So like if they announce that Avatar Land is going to open in 2027, they announced that at this expo, I don't know if I would like expect like all the details to be announced, especially because we'll have like a whole other expo.
Exactly, Sam. That's what I was getting at. Actually, see if they make the announcement. Obviously, we're going to hear about Pandora. I think we're going to get which park it's going into. I don't even know if they may even say the location of the park. Like, they'll say the park. I'm for sure they'll probably say DCA, but I don't know if they're necessarily going to say it's going to go into Hollywoodland or if it's going to go into the Simba parking lot. I don't know if they're going to be there yet. I just think they may tell us which park it's going into and give us a hint maybe of like what the main center attraction is going to be. Then I feel like in 2026, because usually with the first Pandora, they made the announcement back in 2011, I believe.
Right.
And it didn't open until May 27th of 2017. So it took 6 years from announcement to grand opening. So Iger mentioned Pandora during the quarterly earnings, but the difference about this time is they had to wait until if they knew if Disneyland Forward was going to get approved. Right. Because Ken Potrock mentioned that during the meeting to the Anaheim City Council, depending on what your vote is, that's what's going to depict what Pandora is going to be. So now, after waiting to see if it got approved, which thankfully it did, now they can start making the moves that they already had done previously with Pandora in Animal Kingdom. So now I feel like you're basically probably going to have to take it from this time frame, not when necessarily Iger leaked it, in a sense, purposely leaked it for the quarterly earnings. So if you take 2024, I honestly can say Pandora is probably not going to be done till about like 2030, to be honest with you.
So about
which
six,
is about
years.
6 years. So I think, honestly, 2026, I think we'll probably get the model, I would think.
Okay.
2028, they'll probably give us a little bit more like odds, like little odds and ends. But I could probably see by like 2029, 2030, Pandora will be up and running.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're probably not too far off of that timeline, to be honest with you, because they still have to build, well, depends. Well, actually, no, it doesn't depend. If they're gonna, well, for example, let's talk about where they would put this thing, right? Mm-hmm. We've discussed it with Hey Bricky, we discussed it with Jack, and I want to get Sam's opinion on this. If they put it in the symbol lot, which is like kind of where my head is at, because I think James Cameron is probably going to want a clean slate, kind of. He doesn't want to work around a monorail beam and all these obstacles. It's just the easiest to kind of use the parking lot, and he can go big and get really ambitious because he's a go big kind of guy, If they put it in the symbol lot, though, they're going to have a parking structure, though, before they start digging that thing up. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to start on the Eastern Gateway parking structure. The parking structure has to be done, though. Well, the Pixar one took, I think 2 years to build.
I think it took like a year and a half.
Was it? Okay.
Year and a half. Okay.
I think they broke ground in 2018 and then finished it right before Galaxy's Edge opened.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so about a year and a half, say, right? Year and a half. So you have to wait for that to get done before you can even start, before you can put a shovel in the ground over there in the symbol lot. Because you can't lose all that parking without anything to replace it. So that's an element there. That's assuming they're going to put it in the symbol lot. I think they will, you know what I'm saying? But even if they do Hollywoodland,
they have to reroute the bus.
because they're gonna have to reroute the buses and stuff because you're gonna want to expand into that unload load area. So you're gonna have to deal with the Eastern Gateway before you start Pandora, no matter where you put it, Hollywoodland or the
wait, now in California, now I know this is leaning more towards LA. I think Universal Hollywood would get more of the brunt of the traffic with the Olympics, but is that in 2028?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, it's in 2028.
Summer 2028 is the Summer Olympics in LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be cutting it close, but I mean, I won't say it's impossible for them to have Pandora done by 2028 if they really push it. When they say full steam ahead, they got to hit that gas pedal then, because there is a possibility. I mean, it could be done in 2028.
Here's the thing too. Oh, go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, personally, I hope they wouldn't do this. But do you think if not all of Avatar Land is done by 2028, they would open it in phases?
Oh, well, that's
similar to Galaxy's Edge.
That's interesting. No, I didn't think of that.
I mean, it's a possibility, I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, it's hard to say, So there's that.
As long as if they have two attractions, I think if they have two attractions, they can maybe offset, part of it, sort of like how they did with Smuggler's Run and Rise of the Resistance. But if they just have that one big e-ticket attraction that we're all anticipating, that it's probably going to be like the ride system of the Shanghai Pirates, then more so the whole land would have to open at once.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Now we're hearing that the Avengers e-ticket is kind of further along than people think it is. That's what we're hearing from people that we do trust, right, George?
Yes.
I'm based on what I'm hearing. I'm like 98% certain we're going to hear something about that at this expo.
We would have to. I mean, by now, or
they've been announcing that so many times. They first announced it in 2019, then 2022. Then they update again. But from my understanding, the 2022 version is different from the 2019 version.
My son went through puberty before we got this ride.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's crazy. But here's the thing too that I do want to say, and I agree with you guys. It's so frustrating. I'm a huge DCA guy. I want DCA to get love, so it is frustrating, the feet dragging. But to be fair, there were a lot of big things that happened between now and 2019. I mean, we had a CO swap out. We got Chapek, and then Iger. and then Bob Iger came back. We had the pandemic, right? Just a few months after they announced it. I mean, the expo was in August of 2019, and by February of 2020, we were in a full-blown pandemic that shut everything down. So there were a lot of things.
Well, I mean, if you want to get nitpicky.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. But that I do think that impacted. Here's the other thing too. I heard Imagineering wasn't happy with the capacity. I heard that original, like Sam was saying, they switched out the ride, the original concept where you were strapped in and you were going to launch individually with the Quinjet thing. It wasn't.
They said the capacity for that would be a nightmare.
Yeah. See, so they had to switch it to this kind of more Transformers looking thing.
Do you think it could possibly that they're kind of delaying it without delaying it because they kind of want to see the direction now, especially with Deadpool and Wolverine, kind of revitalizing the MCU, and then moving forward, we're probably going to get more on X-Men and Fantastic Four and a kind of a revitalization of the Avengers even. Do you think they could be waiting on those?
It's possible. I mean, it's possible. It's the math has sort of changed, right? With the MCU, it's different. Yeah. And look how popular, like we were just talking about earlier on in the show, look how popular Deadpool and Wolverine are in the park. People love it. I mean, I know there are, and I'm not disrespecting anyone's personal opinion, because I do know it's a sensitive subject, because we're dealing with people and what they want their kids to be, I don't want to say subjected to, but what's around, right? So Deadpool is a risky franchise, right? So I understand that, but for the most part, I think that the reception for Deadpool has been very positive at DCA for the most part. I think there are people with legitimate concerns, but for the most part, it's been received very well, very positive. Disney's looking at that stuff. You know what I'm saying? They're looking at that. So
now, for the location of where they have Deadpool at now, for the story time and everything, Do you think they're just kind of utilizing the space because they have it right now, because the Hyperion Theater's not functioning right now, or operating, I should say? Or could that possibly be a little hint of saying that they could eventually use that part of Hollywoodland and extend out Avengers Campus, but then they could still use the backlot area, moving back forth to the bus loading area for Pandora or Zootopia or what have you? But do you think like the stretch of Hollywoodland off of Buena Vista Street that circles around into the campus, could that eventually become expanded area for Marvel?
Oh, you saw the area in front of the Hyperion Theater,
right. Yeah,
and that whole. It's possible. It's possible because you could put, honestly, if you kept it a theater, you could put a Deadpool show in there, and that'd be pretty funny, dude.
That would be pretty dope.
Yeah,
right. Because I mean, think about it. Like we were just saying earlier, how it's very similar to the Genie in Aladdin. How they can kind of play off the audience, play off of modern events. So if you have Deadpool in there, kind of riffing off the audience, riffing off of like whatever big news story is, you know, even making fun of themselves like they did today with Splash Mountain. That would be a fun show. You know what I'm saying?
That would be pretty funny, actually.
It would, you know. Now we'll see what happens. We'll see if they get a lot of complaints at City Hall because Deadpool is there. I don't think they will, though, to be honest with you. I really don't, you know. But we'll see. Maybe there's a lot of parents out there that don't want it, you know, that don't like it. I don't know.
Stay home.
Yeah, right. There you go. Well, that is an option, right? If you feel that, hey, look, Deadpool isn't right for my family, then yeah, George, then you don't go to DCA then while he's around, or you go to Disneyland instead. I mean, that's you know, an option. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So, you know, we'll kind of see. But I am kind of curious though, and you know, we've talked a lot, and I want to get your opinion on this, Sam. George and I have talked a lot about the future of Hollywoodland in general. You know. And we've thrown around a lot of ideas, whether it be Avatar, but even Zootopia. You know, we were kind of talking about how you can take all of Hollywoodland and put Zootopia there. It's both are urban settings, so you don't even have to really maneuver too much like you would if you were to put Pandora in there, right? So yeah, you have the monorail beam, but it's a city, so it doesn't really matter. You can fit that in. You know, even the red car trolley, you can kind of keep that and have that go through Zootopia. You know. Is it a possibility, in your opinion, Sam, that we would see Hollywoodland get transformed into Zootopia, and maybe we'll get that, maybe the Shanghai e-ticket or some version of it in that park? Is that a possibility?
That's a very good question. It's kind of hard. Like, I don't know. In terms of how I feel when it comes to removing Hollywoodland, for me, it's like kind of bittersweet because like Hollywoodland is like, in my opinion, like the weakest land in the entire Disneyland resort, especially like the Hollywood backlot area where like Monsters Inc. is and whatnot. But yet again, like, I don't know, like Hollywoodland was like one of the original lands as part of DCA. It's like it's like one of the original DCA lands that we have left. So I'm not too sure. But I could see Disney like taking like a Los Angeles themed Zootopia and placing it in like the Hollywood backlot area. I feel like it would make sense because like the normies really like the IP, and Zootopia, it is a very popular franchise. Now I bet they would make changes to Zootopia. Like I don't think we would get the exact same thing that we have over in Shanghai because like because United States and China, those are both very different cultures. So
right.
So I'm not too sure. I would personally love to see
and nothing screams about major theme park entertainment than walking through a jail cell.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's an element here that I think that would probably be an issue for the domestic parks, especially California. You know, and, you know, we're more progressive out here. You know, so I don't know. Yeah, that's there's a sequel. We don't even know what that's
exactly. See, but I think honestly, that's actually the best time to have your kids walk through a jail cell, because then you could have the conversation. It's like, if you don't get your freaking act together and stop driving me crazy, this is where you're going to end up.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. This is where you're going to end up. Shape up, you know? Yeah, it's interesting, you know, and that property, Zootopia, really does feel like a DCA thing to me. It's imaginative, you know, but it has that kind of modern edge to it that feels very DCA.
Well, I even told you earlier, OG, for me, I mean, I would accept the ride. I think the ride is very cute. I would enjoy it, but honestly, I just love the aesthetics of the land itself. If they just did a Zootopia land with a lot of maybe like quick services or just the overall aesthetics of the Zootopia like cityscape and what have you, where at night, you know, you pump the music, you have the lights on. I'd be satisfied just with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
no,
Disney probably wouldn't do that. Obviously, they would like to tie like some sort of attraction to it. But I mean, like, just in the Italiano's world, I would be happy just with the land itself.
And for
yeah, I mean,
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, from my understanding too, like the Zootopia meet and greet with the that you were just mentioning earlier in the show is pretty popular, right?
Yeah, and it's been there for a while. So I think it's doing numbers, as they say, as the kids say, doing numbers. I think it's doing numbers. I think it's doing well enough where it's been around for a while. So, you know, I mean, and Disney does do those kind of beta tests often, where they'll put a character meet and greet in certain areas to see how they kind of work. I don't know if you guys remember, but like before Avengers Campus, we had a lot of Marvel stuff and meet and greets in Hollywoodland. They were kind of testing that franchise in that general area. You know what I'm saying? I remember back in the day, this is a long time ago, they had a Tarzan meet and greet in Adventureland. And then what do we get? We got the Tarzan Treehouse. So this stuff very much, you know, beta test. And we're having our OG55 meetup in August. So who knows? We might even get an OG55 building over in downtown Disney. They're beta testing it, bro.
Even before Cars Land opened too, I remember they were testing a Lightning McQueen and Mayor meet and greet over at Condor Flats, which is now Grizzly Peak, like right in front of Soaring.
Yes, yeah. See, they do that, you know, and the fact that Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde out there in DCA, they're at least considering it. And what we got that comment from That's a Wrap and the paint store, and there's, you know, I don't know. It's a possibility. But here's the thing, though, Sam. I want to pose this question to you. I was talking to the Italiano today on the phone about it. So if we get probably Pandora in DCA, probably the Avengers e-ticket, right? We got two big things. We got a big, huge, brand new land and an e-ticket with Avengers. Is it too much in one expo to also announce that we're getting Zootopia? I would love it.
That's a good point.
Are they going to?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would love it too. I think it would be amazing if they could just announce like 7 e-tickets for DCA. I'm just kidding, but
I wish, bro. I wish, yeah.
But yeah, if we're already getting the Avengers e-ticket and we're already getting Pandora, and then not to mention they're going to be like the other announcements for like Disney World, Disneyland Paris, Disney Cruise Line, and even like the new Disney Epic partnership. From my understanding, they're going to make announcements for that at the Disney Experiences panel. So I don't know. They may want to say future.
That'll probably be 95% of the presentation.
Well, and you joke, but it probably will be.
It probably will be. Yeah.
Oh, I hope not.
But I think, it makes me wonder. Like I can agree to that notion, but it makes me wonder if they will announce more for DCA, because there's not really going to be anything to make an announcement with Disneyland unless they tap into the Country Bears. Or they may go the route where they mention Zootopia, but that might be one of Josh D'Amaro's world famous what ifs.
It could be a what if, or it could be kind of like what Chapes did. I think it was in 2019, if I'm not, was it 2019? Or maybe it was the one before that, where you were talking about, George, with the Avengers pothole over by Mission Breakout. And Chapek came out and said Spider-Man is coming to DCA. I think it was 2017, Zach.
2017, I believe.
2017. He said Spider-Man and the Avengers are coming to DCA. He didn't give us any details. And I was so stupid back then, dude. I was like, oh man, if they're doing Spider-Man, then they got confidence, bro. They got nuts of steel. They know this ride's gonna be dope because the Islands of Adventure one is so amazing. They would never even try it if they didn't think they could beat it.
And then we got web slingers.
Great.
Exactly. You know, but yeah, it's interesting stuff. Now, I want to kind of also ask, because I agree with you, fellas. I don't think big things we're going to get for Disneyland at this expo. Maybe Tomorrowland, but probably nothing too major. It's going to be mostly DCA. Sam, what do you think, though, about the 70th anniversary coming up for Disneyland?
Ooh.
Obviously, we're not getting any new rides because we would know that by now. They would have to be building it. But, like, what do you think is coming for Disneyland for the 70th?
That's a great question. I I would love to see Paint the Night return. I don't know if Paint the Night will. I don't know if it will return, but I would love to see it come back because I really like that parade.
It should already be there.
I agree. They should make it like a permanent thing, kind of like, because my understanding, the Main Street Electrical Parade was like a permanent offering for several years, right?
Yeah.
So why don't they do the same thing with I feel like they should do the same thing with Paint the Night. And then maybe you could bring back Wondrous Journeys as well. Personally, I haven't seen Wondrous Journeys, but I've heard amazing things about it.
Sam, I am telling you that show will make a grown man cry. It will make a grown man cry. That show is so beautifully done. Shout out to Christopher Lenertz, songwriter Christopher Lenertz, who's amazing, who was part of that whole creation of that show. But one of Disneyland's best. I mean, honestly, it was so beautiful. I wish they'd bring that back. But I think that like for the 70th, we're going to see a lot of stuff like that, though. Maybe a new fireworks show. Maybe they will bring Paint the Night back. That's a possibility. Maybe we get a new daytime parade. I don't know. They might announce the Walt Disney animatronic in Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yes, and that's a perfect time to do it for the 70th. You know, announce it at D23. So I think we're gonna get a bunch of stuff like that for the 70th. You know,
I agree. Or it'd also be cool too if they brought like a exclusive, like a completely new like fireworks show for Disneyland 70th. Disneyland does a really good job with their fireworks shows. Like when I was there a month ago, I saw like the Pixar Paint Together Forever one. That one was really good, and I also really like the holiday fireworks as well. But yeah, they can get emotional. Like those fireworks shows, they really make them like emotional, very powerful stuff.
Oh yeah, they've ruined Disneyland fireworks has ruined me for regular fireworks. I watch like 4th of July fireworks around my neighborhood or something. It's like
it's not the same.
Yeah, especially like I love like the part in like the Disneyland like Christmas fireworks show, and then like once the fireworks finish and like the snow falls on Main Street for like 5 minutes. That's like a really special moment.
Yes. And you know what really bothers me? Sam, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's a powerful moment. And you always get somebody in the crowd going, "Did you know it's soap?" Can we have a moment, please? Just like
I know, it's annoying.
God, that bugs me. That bugs me. But yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of entertainment stuff. You know, for the 70th. Probably not too much for the 70th for Disneyland. What about you, George? What do you think, brother?
Bro, you have to clip that for a TikTok short.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't even have TikTok yet, but I got to get on that. I got to get on that. Maybe Instagram.
Instagram, yeah, that's it. An Instagram short. I'm sorry. What was your question, bro?
I was asking you. Oh, that's a good question. What was I asking you? Yeah. What do you think they're going to bring to Disneyland for 70?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I completely echo your statements on that. I think we'll get a new fireworks show. I would love to see Wondrous Journeys come back, but I think that the way that it's presented, I feel like it was more fitting for Disney 100. I think if they do a new fireworks show, I would love to see something like how they did with Disneyland Forever with the Diamond Celebration. Which to me, that was one of my all-time favorite Disneyland fireworks shows.
So just good.
It's especially the intro to that, like where they talk about Walt, and it's like, and then 60 years ago you were standing in orange groves. It's got to stay on brand. But
I do really appreciate Disney going all out to giving us a shout out here on the channel. That was pretty cool.
That was really cool. That was really
cool. It wasn't even made yet. It was made like a year later in 2016, right?
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't. Yeah,
like they're predicting the future.
They predicted. Yeah, exactly.
But so a new fireworks show. Definitely either a new parade or, as I agree with Sam, I would love to see Paint the Night come back. I would just love to see a nighttime parade in general. Like if I had to pick and choose, I would take a nighttime parade over a day parade, if I'm being very honest.
Yeah, but you have to admit though, George,
I do have a little bit of a bias. I do have.
I mean, that is an absolute banger. Everyone at the club is like, so good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love it. No, I did that on purpose so you would do that drop. And
I wish I could play more of it, but they'd copyright me like 15 different ways.
It's like, really? And then of course, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory that we'll definitely be getting, if the rumors are true, the Walt Disney animatronic into the greatest moments with into the unknown. The greatest moments with Mr. Lincoln. I actually think that they may even showcase the audio animatronic at the expo, whether it is unveiled on the expo showroom floor, or maybe they give us a little sneak peek of behind the scenes, maybe at the park's presentation itself. But I think I definitely think that we would be getting that for the 70th. Now, for the 75th anniversary, I think whatever they start making announcements now at the park's presentation, some of the projects will be ready for the 75th.
Yeah. 75 is a bigger year. Oh, I'm sorry, Sam, what was that?
I was just going to say the 75th, that's a big one. That's a big anniversary. Yeah. 75 years of Disneyland.
And
pretty big deal.
The 75th anniversary, 2030. That's what I predicted for Pandora.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, dude. You're right. Yeah.
Real quickly, going back to our previous discussion about like the Olympics in 2028, Mickey's 100th birthday is also in 2028. So you think they'll do something extra big that year at Disneyland?
Oh, you're right. I would think so. They made the 90th. They made the bigger deal of the 90th. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's how we got Mixed Magic.
Yeah. So the 100th. I mean, even if no attractions are ready, I'm for sure they'll capitalize just for Mickey in general.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Oh yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Real quick, I was just gonna say, with like the merchandising potential for like the Mickey 100, Disney could make a lot of money. Do you have the money drop?
Oh, here we go. A lot of money. Okay, hold on. We're doing a money drop. Here we go. Look at Sam, dude.
Look at Sam, a little sneaky cheeky there.
We'll drop another money drop for Sam. Here we go. There we go. That's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, no, I mean it's gonna be very, very interesting. Now they did reveal, I don't have it up. We gotta do a show one day on it, but like there were like coins that someone leaked on Twitter with the 70th anniversary logo on them. And it's a giant 70, and Mickey Mouse's face is in the 0, and it looks absolutely incredible. And then it has, I think, if memory serves me right, like an old school kind of Disneyland font underneath. It looks so good, dude. I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, so we'll see. Hopefully that wasn't bullshit. Hopefully it was real. I got like mentally attached to that. Now if it's not that, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So we'll see.
They're probably like, it's probably foil for those chocolate cover coins.
Right. Exactly. So let's dip into a little bit now of Disney corporate stuff. You know, I want to talk a little bit about CEO succession. I like to dip into this every now and then because
the stuff that everyone was anticipating, you know, they love to hear that succession stuff.
Ah, yes. It's like Disney Game of Thrones. You know what I'm saying? Who's going to get the throne? So Sam, I want to ask you. So we have some candidates out there. We got Daddy Josh. You know, We got. Yeah, I know. Me too, dude. Me too.
I'm just kidding. I hope Josh isn't watching.
I know.
I was just joking.
Yeah,
I never do.
Right? Yeah, no, exactly. No, I mean, look, as a person, he seems great.
Yeah.
I just haven't been impressed with how he's been handling the park stuff. I really haven't.
No,
he can change our mind at D23, but we'll see. Go ahead, Sam.
I was just gonna say, like, I wouldn't want Josh tomorrow to be the CEO by himself, but like if him and Dana Wellum were co-CEOs, I would give that a fair chance.
I would too.
Thank you. Yeah, because then you have like, I trust. Here's the thing, and I know people will get all funny with me because people think like Dana Walden is woke or whatever, you know, this whole thing. But I think Dana Walden has the chops for the job. I agree with you, Sam. Like, she's a studio person, and we need a studio person running the studio. You know, in my opinion, I mean, that's historically what they've done. Disney is a studio first. I've said it many times. And really the whole company is fed from the studio. So yes, I know the parks are a big division, but without the IP that the studio creates, you don't have anything for the parks. The whole engine is the studio. So I like that she's got studio experience. Here's the other thing too, Sam. If if it's Daddy Josh, and if it's just Josh Giamaro, right? And I'm going to repeat myself because not everyone watches every video, but I said it before. Right now, Hollywood in general, the industry is going through a seismic shift, right? It's not just Disney. Warner Brothers is really going through it right now. Even Universal, you know, and like Paramount. There's a lot of changes in Hollywood. I don't really trust Damaro, at least yet, to, you know, kind of navigate those waters. You know, I mean, he can't even really commit to like D23 announcements. You know, so it scares me, dude. It really does. Dana, I trust her a whole lot more. She's run her division, in my opinion, way better than he's run his.
And even if Josh Damaro does do a slam banger of a presentation this year, one time shouldn't like lock him in to solidify that he could run the company as CEO for multiple years down the road. I mean, it takes a lot more than just saying, okay, he had one successful D23 event. Okay, that puts him in a better running for CEO. Me personally, I don't think that should be the way, if that's Disney's mentality of thinking. But I do agree with you, Sam. I think if they did like a dual kind of partnership of CEO where it's Dana Walden and Josh Damaro, sort of like how they did with Eisner and Wells, and then of course Walt and Roy, you know, basically the founders of the company, you know, I think honestly that should be the route anyway, whether it's Josh Damaro or not. I think Disney is such a bigger beast of a company that I just feel like two people, you have a creative and you have a business person. And I feel like having that kind of combination would be in complete harmony with the company. What do you say?
I completely agree. I think it should be two CEOs because, like you just said, you're not throwing the entire company on one person's shoulders. But also, too, I personally think that having 2 or 3 co-CEOs would make future CEO successions even easier because I think it's highly unlikely. Like, for example, let's say Dana Walden and Josh Damaro become co-CEOs. I think it's highly unlikely that both would step down at the exact same time. So then if you have like in 10 years, like let's say Dana Walden steps down first and then someone else succeeds her, then like you'll still have the other co-CEO there, and that would make for a much more gradual transition process. Does that kind of make sense?
That does, actually. I didn't really even think of it in that way. But yeah, it kind of gives you kind of more stretching room, so to speak, that, you know, you can kind of do multiple kind of variations, so to speak, where it's like, okay, well, maybe this person would work better with this person. And then if one person steps down, okay, let's bring this person in. Different combinations. That was the term.
Yeah, exactly. It creates like a much more gradual transition, unlike when like Chapek was fired and then Iger came back like the next night. Like from my understanding, that created a lot of instability.
Oh gosh! Oh, it was so. Yeah, it was.
Whereas if you just have one person stepping down at once, at least it makes it more like a more stable, cohesive.
I mean, really, not to get like too political, but I'm just saying, just overall, look at, you know, the government. You know, president, vice president. You know, I mean, it's like if one can't speak, you have the other one. You know, and it's like. But, and also too, OG had mentioned this a time or two, or even if they brought back, they used to have the title of president of the Walt Disney Company.
And they haven't had that in a long time. So that would be cool to, even if you don't have a co-CEO situation, even if you just brought the president role back, that would be awesome. Maybe you put Damaro in the president role and you have Dana Walden as CEO. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm really still rooting though for Tom Staggs. I love Tom Staggs, Kevin Meyer as well. Are you kind of hoping they get it too, Sam?
Yeah. So personally, my first choice when it comes to who should succeed Bob Iger, it would be Dana Walden, Tom Staggs, and Kevin Meyer, the 3 of them co-CEOs. That would personally be my first choice. And honestly, I'm almost certain that Dana Walden will succeed Iger. I think personally now it's just a matter of, is she going to run the company by herself, or will there be 1 or 2 co-CEOs to run the company alongside with her? Because she has like an excellent track record. Like even before Disney bought Fox, like she was doing an amazing job running Fox for the few decades that she was there. And from my understanding too, I think I read this on CNBC. From my understanding, the day the Fox acquisition was announced in December of 2017, from my understanding, Iger actually called Dana Walden and said, regardless of what happens, I want you to come work at Disney.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. I did not know that.
I think Walden has an excellent track record, and honestly, she's had more experience and success than any of the other candidates when it comes to the actual entertainment side and the movie side of the company, particularly in television. So personally, I think she should definitely succeed Iger.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you. She's got the chops. I think she's run her division very well. She's also on, I always forget the name of it, but it's Joe Biden.
Export Council.
Yes, thank you, Sam. The Export Council for President Biden, which matters. You think, oh, well, what does that matter for Disney? Well, you're dealing with a lot of other countries when you're dealing with the parks division and things like that. You know, you got to work out a lot of deals out with like with China, when you work out with France and things like that. So that experience, I think, is huge for her. Absolutely huge for her. So yeah,
it is a huge deal.
It is.
In order to be on that committee, you have to be a really respected leader in your industry in order to even be invited to come on. So that even just says a lot about Dana Wall in terms of her leadership and her admirability as a executive in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. So it's gonna be interesting how this whole thing shakes out, you know. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna find out soon from what Kevin Meyer was saying on CNBC, I believe, that we're gonna know by, what did they say, by the end of 2024?
End of 2024.
I think so.
Yeah.
So that's coming up, dude. That's coming up.
No.
So, I'm very, very curious. So I don't know. We'll see.
Because I think what their goal is anyway is to make the announcement for 2024. Whoever that person that they actually officially announce, all of 2025 kind of shadow a one-on-one with Iger.
Right.
Kind of have him show him or her the ropes, and then going into 2026, and then whatever month that is decided upon, I guess between Iger and the board of directors, then it'll be passed on to whoever they choose. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, my money's on Walden. I think she's gonna get it. Mine too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's gonna get it. But we'll see. We'll see. I hope they can find a spot though. If it is Walden, I hope they find a spot for Tom Staggs and Meyer. And that's the thing too. I was so surprised when Kevin Meyer didn't get it. Because he was Bob Iger's right-hand man during all these acquisitions. And that was really, the acquisitions was the thing that really built Bob Iger's legacy. I'm surprised Meyer or Staggs didn't get it. I mean, because I felt Staggs got the short end of the stick with that one, which led to his departure. Because he was supposed to be, I feel anyway, CEO many years ago, to be honest with you.
Right. He was chief operations officer at one point, and I think usually, right, when you're chief operations officer, that means you're being groomed for the CEO role. Yeah, he was CFO. Sure. He was CFO as well. He also ran the park division. He did very good in that role too, So he's the guy, man. And he's kind of nerdy. I like his nerdy charm. Yeah. I don't know. He's great. Absolutely great. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But Disney seems to be rebounding right now. At least, look, the movies are doing bonkers. I mean, Inside Out 2, incredible success story for Pixar. We got Deadpool and Wolverine, which it's looking at the time of recording of this video, it's looking like a 200+ million opening weekend. I mean, this is crazy. Okay. And then we got Moana coming out in November, it's Moana, dude. I mean, it's going to be probably close to $1 billion or maybe even hit $1 billion. They're doing it right now. They got the momentum. Hopefully they can keep it. We'll see, we'll absolutely see. Yeah. But I wanted to I want to also talk to you guys about the diehards versus the normies. We've talked about this a few times on the channel. You know what I'm saying? And we talked about even on the show with the Country Bears, what the diehards want and what the normies want, I'll start with you, George. What do you think that we have a lot of these conversations in our space and everything about we see it on X all the time. The diehards are all mad about this, that, and the other, and the normies don't give a shit, or vice versa. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, I feel like it's all, I like to compare normies and diehards, sort of like Walt Disney World and Disneyland.
they're almost like one and the same, but two totally different beasts. Where diehards like us, you know, we get very intricate when it comes to the parks, where we like put it under a microscope, and it's like, oh well, this is nostalgic, you know, this is, how dare you take this away from us? Or it's like, you know, why do we have to have all IPs? Why can't we have original stuff like Walt intended it to, and vice versa? But then they bitch and complain about saying, oh, but Walt didn't want it as a stagnant museum, so we have to get new stuff. And it's like, and then you have the normies that are just like, all we wanted to do was come in, ride some rides, eat some popcorn, churros, and cotton candy. You know, it's like, we don't really. And then, of course, they care about having more of the IP, because that's the bigger demographic. Because for a normie, if they go and watch a movie, say like Frozen or Zootopia or Inside Out, it's like, okay, that's something that when you bring your children into the parks, it's like, that's something that they recognize. It's like, oh, yeah, I remember going to see that at the movie theater. Now we're actually in a theme park and we're about to ride the ride with it. You know, take Tiana's Bayou Adventure, for instance. It's like, for a normie, it's just a fun water ride that involves characters from The Princess and the Frog. They don't care what the backstory is. They don't care about, like, it's a continuation from The Princess and the Frog, or that it's an in-between to where the movie ended, but before the series on Disney Plus that's going to premiere.
You know, for the normies, the Tiana ride, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, they got their kid in the log with them, and the normie mindset is, oh look, Tiana, oh look, the cute alligator. That's pretty much what they're thinking the whole way through it. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. You know, some people get so in this where it's like, oh, the lore. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, like, no, like, seriously, like, the normie, like, it's the drop. You know, and some cute visuals along the way, and they're fine, you know. But what about you, Sam, in terms of the normies versus the diehards?
I mean, it's really quite crazy, like, how much of like a disconnect there really is between like the normies and the diehards, especially because like the normies like really don't mind the IP at all. Just kind of like what you were talking about when it comes to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Like, really, they go, oh yeah, there's Tiana, there's the alligator, and then the drop.
Yeah.
But like the diehards, they really there are a lot of diehards who aren't a big fan of like Disney IP integration into like existing attractions. And I understand why, to be fair, I understand why like some of those fans may have like an issue with it, just because like a lot of like the earlier Disney parks attractions like were original ideas. I know they were like technically based off of IPs, or like some of them were, but like there were also like a lot of original parks ideas, so I understand it. But I think it's worth knowing that like the normies really like the IP, and they really like seeing the Disney characters. And like, even going back to the Country Bear Jamboree, like in my opinion, I think the normies will like that show much more, just because like the Disney IP songs are integrated into the show. But on Hey Bricky's video, I really liked the point that he made when he said that like a lot of fans think that like Pirates of the Caribbean was like an original attraction, but technically it wasn't based off of a Disney IP. It was based off of the Pirates IP. Do you kind of remember that point he made?
Yes, that's a brilliant point.
Yeah, it is a really good point.
It's a fantastic point. And when kids in the 50s, right, they looked up to like the Cowboys, right, the John Waynes, right? That was their IP. It wasn't. You're right. It wasn't a Disney IP necessarily, but that was the IP of the day. The cowboy, the Western, that was the MCU at that time. You know, it was a cowboy they were looking up to. Now you look up to Iron Man, right? It's the same idea. It's funny how, you know, how much things haven't really changed really that much, you know? And look, even Sleeping Beauty's castle. I mean, Walt Disney named it after Sleeping Beauty to promote the film 4 years later for 1959 release. Like, people have this idea. I don't know where the diehards get this idea that Walt Disney was like really anti-IP. Like, he was like this indie filmmaker who was like, you know, like, no, this guy not only like embraced it, he all but invented the IP flywheel machine that they use today. You know, I mean, he pioneered that. So he was not against the IP at all. He was
even like Pinocchio and Walt and like Snow White. Those are based off of fairy tales.
Right. Exactly. Which is technically like an IP. You know. So, but it wasn't Disney IP at the time. But you know, So it's fascinating. Yeah, the diehards is funny. And we were on the Disney cruise, George and I, on the Wish, and we were in that Marvel restaurant one night eating dinner, and Spider-Man came in, and I've told George, he was there with me. I mean, you would have thought Elvis walked in the room. I mean, it was like the normies were going nuts for this guy, absolutely nuts. And this is what the normies want. They want that IP. You know, they want the Elsa ride. They want this stuff. You know, it is what it is. You know, we're as diehards, yes, okay, the Western River Expedition, okay, or Mystic Manor, and I get it, you know, but like the soccer mom doesn't care about that stuff. They just don't. They just don't. So, but Italiano, Sam, it has been an absolute pleasure. Sam, it's fantastic, man. You are really like first time on the show, and you hit a home run, brother. We would love to have you back on again if you're down for it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it was awesome having you on.
Yeah, it was. I mean, even
so much.
Yeah, even did a money drop. I mean, it was you fit right in, you know. So
thank you.
Yeah, but I'll start with George and I'll go down to Sam. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, Mr. Sticky Icky Icky.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Here we go. This is for you and Mavie. Here's Julie. Let's go. There we go. There we go. And Sam, like we said, honor having you on the show. Really good time. If you could remind everybody where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you to everyone in the amazing Orange Grove 55 community who checked this video out. You can find me on SamChat21 on X, formerly known as Twitter.
There he is. Make sure you follow him on X. I will be linking his information in the description down below. Passionate Disney fan, friend of the channel for a very, very long time. So check him out. First of many, many appearances here on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with everything that we discussed today. You know, diehards versus normies, Disneyland Forward, Deadpool and Wolverine at DCA. Controversial topic for some. You know, and I understand the arguments on both sides. Personally, it doesn't bother me at all, but I get the other side of the argument. But what are your thoughts on it? Do you like the idea? Do you hate the idea? Do you think it's a little too much? We'd love to hear from you. But anything we discussed today, whatever's on your mind, comment down below. And until the next time.